welcome to my channel where I share easy, beginner-friendly crochet tutorials. Today we're going to be making this Santa hat, which is perfect for the holiday season. As always, I will have everything you need to make your own Santa hat linked in the description down below, as well as a link to the written pattern. Here's everything you will need to make your own Santa hat. Size 4 medium weight yarn in red, bulky weight fur yarn in white, a 6.5mm crochet hook, a stitch marker, a tapestry needle, scissors, and measuring tape. With our red yarn and a 6.5mm crochet hook, we are going to start with a slip knot and then chain 58. This chain should fit around your head, so if you need it to be smaller or larger, just make sure that you are chaining an even number of stitches. And then I will tell you how we will modify the pattern later. Here is my chain of 58 stitches, and I'm going to join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. Now we have created this circle, and this will be the base of our hat, so this should fit around your head. For our first row, we are just going to do a single crochet in each stitch around. We are going to be doing waistcoat stitch for this, so I recommend keeping your tension very loose for this first row. It'll be important for the second row and all of the rows after. So just like that, we're going to continue that all the way around. Alright, here is my last stitch. So we are going to be doing waistcoat stitch, which is essentially a single crochet in each stitch, but instead of putting it where you would usually put your single crochet, which would be like that, we are going to put it inside of our stitches that we created in our first row. Each stitch kind of has this little V on the front. There's the two little posts. We're going to go into that V. And I will link a video in the description that explains this a little bit better. This second row can be a little bit challenging, but it gets easier after this. So once again, we're just going to go into that little V of our stitch. And then we're just going to do a single crochet like normal. This is going to create almost like a mock knit stitch. So just keep doing this all the way around. I do recommend using a stitch marker in your first stitch because this is done in a continuous round, so that'll help you keep track of your rows. So it should look something like this, and we're just going to continue this all the way around. So we are going to be doing this for rows 2 through 4. I just finished row 2, which means I will be doing 2 more rows of single crochet in the waistcoat stitch. If this stitch is too hard for you, you can just do normal single crochets. Alright, I am finishing up my 4th row. And it should look something like this. So once again, you can try this on to make sure it fits your head, because at this point this will be how big our hat will be. Alright, let's talk about modifications. This part is only applicable if you started with a different number of chains than me, but we're going to be doing decreases in every other row from here on out. So it's a pretty simple formula to change this pattern around. We're going to need to know our total number of stitches. Mine is 58. So for our row 5, we're going to need our total number of stitches. We're going to divide that number by 2, and then we're going to subtract 2 from that. So again, I started with 58. So I'm going to divide 58 by 2, and then subtract 2 from that number. So 58 divided by 2 is 29, minus 2 is 27. So my row 5 will be single crochet 27 stitches, do a decrease, single crochet 27 stitches, and then do one more decrease. So if you had 60 stitches at the beginning, you would divide that in half, which would be 30, subtract 2, 28. So you would single crochet 28, do a decrease, single crochet 28, and do another decrease. All of our even rows from here on out are just going to be single crochet in every stitch in the waistcoat stitch. So row 6, we're going to single crochet in every stitch. Row 7, we're going to take this number that we had for row number 5 and just subtract 1. So I will be single crocheting 26, doing a decrease, single crocheting 26, and then doing one more decrease. And that number will continue to decrease by 1 on every odd row. So for row 9, I will single crochet 25 before my decrease. Row 11, I'll do 24 stitches before my decrease, and row 13, I will do 23, and etc. I'll have this all written out, but if you need to change your numbers, yours will be different than mine. So using the numbers we just figured out, our row 5 will be single crochet 27, do a decrease, single crochet 27, and do another decrease. I'm going to put the numbers that I'm using in green. If you started with a different number of stitches, then your number will be different than mine. So I'm just going to do my single crochet of 27, and then I will show you how to do the decrease. Alright, here are my 27 stitches. Next we are going to do a decrease. So this is pretty similar to just a normal decrease. You're just going to go into your next stitch, pull up a loop, then go into your next stitch, pull up another loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So that is what your decrease looks like. And now we're going to repeat that again. So I will single crochet 27 and then do another decrease in my last 2 stitches. Alright, I am doing my last decrease for this row. Again, we're just going to go into our next stitch, pick up a loop, go into the next stitch, pick up another loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on our hook. Just like that. So now we are on an even row, which means we are just going to single crochet in every stitch around. So we're going to be doing this in every even row from here on out. Our odd rows will be our decreases and our even rows will just be normal single crochets. I'm going to show you how to do a single crochet into our decrease stitch though, so I'll show you that in a second. So now that we've come to our decrease stitch, as you can see, it kind of looks like 2 stitches overlapping each other. So there's one underneath and then one on top. We are going to take our hook and put it under the left post of the stitch that is on top. And then we're just going to go into that understitch like normal. And then we're going to pull up a loop and do a single crochet like normal. Again, I'll link a video in the description that will explain this a little bit better. But I'll show you one more time with our decrease at the end of the row. So you have your 2 little stitches that are almost overlapping. We're going to go under this little post that's blocking our 1 stitch. And then we're going to go into that stitch. Pull up a loop and single crochet just like normal. So again, now we know that our number of single crochets decreases by 1 for each row. So for row 7, we will be doing single crochet 26, 1 decrease, single crochet 26, and then another decrease. So I'm just going to put the whole pattern on the screen because it's pretty long. As you can see, all of our odd rows are our decrease rows, and then all of our even rows are just single crocheting in each stitch around. Again, all of this is in the waistcoat stitch. If you started with a different number of chains than me, then I put those numbers in green so that you know that your number is different at that point. If you change your numbers though, keep going with the decreases and the single crochet rows until you have 6 stitches at the end like I do in row 56. Here is my hat after row 20. As you can see, we're starting to see our decreases and it is starting to take its shape. Here's after row 30. After row 40, we're getting closer to the end. And after row 50. When we start to get to the top, it can be a little bit hard to keep your tension loose, and so when you get to the top, it can be harder to keep your tension loose in your stitches. So if you're struggling to insert your hook into a stitch like I am here, you can take a smaller crochet hook insert it into that stitch and pull up your loop, and then put that loop on your hook like normal. So I'm on my last row, and I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch around. I'm switching my hook for this because it was getting a little bit hard to use the bigger hook. You don't have to do this, but if you are struggling on your last few rows, you can switch your hook and it shouldn't cause any issues. So we're just going to do a single crochet in each stitch around. And if you change your numbers, keep doing the decreases until you have 6 stitches left. Alright, I'm doing my last stitch here. I'm going to remove my stitch marker. And I will fasten off, but I'm going to leave a slightly longer tail because we are going to use that to sew the hole closed at the top. So using a tapestry needle, we're going to weave our yarn tail back through all of the stitches so that we can close that little hole that's right there. So I'm just going to go back and forth through all of the stitches around the hat. And then pull that tight to close. Now you can secure this with a knot, but here is our hat. I usually like to put my yarn tail onto the inside and then I'll weave it in later. So at this point, I usually like to block my hat. I'm using acrylic yarn, which can be a little bit stiff and it doesn't slouch as well until you block it. So I use really warm water and just submerge the whole hat for a little while and then lay it flat to dry. You can also steam block yours with a steamer if you have that. This just helps make the hat more slouchy and fall correctly. Now we are going to add our fur trim to our hat. So I'm going to be using fur yarn and a 6.5mm crochet hook. And we're just going to join the yarn to the base of the hat with a slip stitch. So I'm going to do my slip knot. And I usually like to join it to one of the sides where I have my decreased stitches. But you can join it wherever you want. So I'm just going to go into this first stitch and do a slip stitch so that I can attach my yarn. And then I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to start with 1 row of double crochets to begin with, and then we'll go from there to see if I need my trim to be thicker. So I'm just going to put 1 double crochet in each stitch around. It can be a little hard with this yarn to see where your next stitches are, but it's pretty forgiving, so if you end up accidentally skipping a stitch or something, you probably won't notice. It should look something like this. We're just going to continue that all the way around. Alright, I'm doing my last couple double crochets here. And at this point, if you are happy with how thick the trim is, then you can leave it just like this. I am going to make mine a bit bigger, so we're going to join it to our first stitch with a slip stitch. And then this is where you can kind of switch things up. If you want the brim of your hat to be a lot bigger, you can do another row of double crochets. If you only want it to be slightly larger, you can do a row of single crochets, which is what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm just going to do a single crochet in each stitch around. I do recommend using a stitch marker because it's kind of hard to tell where your round begins. Also, with this yarn, it's kind of easier to feel your stitches than to see them. You'll see I'm sort of feeling where to insert my hook as I go. And I'm just going to do a single crochet in each stitch. Again, if you accidentally end up skipping a stitch, you probably won't notice. This yarn is pretty forgiving. Alright, I am finishing off right here, so I'm going to do a slip stitch to join to our first stitch, and then I will fasten off and cut my yarn. And then you can weave this tail in later. So this part is optional, but I prefer to fold the brim of my hat up. I think it looks more like a Santa hat that way, but if you want to keep your fur trim down, that's okay too. But I'm going to fold mine up, and then because I'm folding it up, I'm going to use some scrap yarn and secure the brim to the hat with a knot on each side. So I'm just going to take a small piece of yarn and my tapestry needle. And I'm just going to put a stitch on both sides of the hat. If you want yours to be more secure, you can do it on the front and the back as well. I'm going to do this from the inside of the hat. I'm going to use my needle to go in between two of the stitches, and then I'm going to go through half of my fur but you don't want it to show on the outside. But you still want it to be secure. You can also use white yarn for this and then go all the way through the brim and you wouldn't see it. Now I am going to just make a few knots so that this is secure. And then you can weave these ends in later. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, we're just going to insert our needle between 2 stitches, go through about half of our fur trim, and then push the needle back out. This will just make sure it is secured to the hat and that brim will not go anywhere. I'm just going to do a few knots again. So your final fur brim should look something like this. Again, you can do an extra stitch in the front and the back if you want it to be super secure. Not fully necessary, but now I'm going to show you how to make our pom-pom. We're going to use our same fur yarn and our 6.5mm crochet hook again, and we are going to make a magic ring. And then we are going to do 6 half double crochets into this magic ring. Again, I do highly recommend using a stitch marker for this because with the yarn it can be sort of hard to figure out where your first stitch is. Alright, here are my 6 half double crochets. Now I'm just going to pull that string to tighten my stitches. And now in our second round, we are just going to do 2 half double crochets in each stitch around. So I'm going to move my stitch marker. Again, with this yarn, it's kind of easier to feel your stitches than to see them. But after my first stitch, I'm going to put my stitch marker back in. And then I will continue doing my 2 half double crochets in each stitch around. Alright, here is my last increase. And at this point, I'm happy with the width of my pom-poms, so I'm just going to do 1/2 double crochet in each stitch around for the next 2 rounds. If you need yours to be wider, you can do another row of increases. So I would do 1/2 double crochet in the first stitch, and then an increase in your second stitch, and then a 1/2 double crochet in your third stitch, increase in your fourth stitch, and so on. So I'm going to put my stitch marker back in, and I'm just going to do a 1/2 double crochet in each stitch around for the next 2 rows. So here's after my first row of 1/2 double crochets in each stitch around, and you can see I have half of a little pom-pom here. I'm going to do 1 more row of that. And here is after my second row of 1/2 double crochets in each stitch. In this next round, we are going to do a 1/2 double crochet decrease 6 times. So we're going to yarn over, go into our first stitch, pick up a loop, yarn over, go into our second stitch, pick up another loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on our hook. I'll show you that one more time. You're going to yarn over, go into your next stitch, pick up a loop, yarn over, go into your next stitch, pick up another loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on your hook. So just continue this all the way around. Here is my last decrease. And here is my pom-pom. I'm going to join to our first stitch with a slip stitch, and then you can fasten off and cut your yarn. Again, you want to leave a bit of a long tail for this because we are going to need it to close that hole. So if you're using a very fluffy yarn, you might not need to stuff this. Mine is a little bit hollow, so I'm going to stuff my pom-pom with just a small amount of polyfill. Now with a tapestry needle, we're gonna weave our yarn tail through each stitch to close our hole, similar to how we did with the Santa hat. So I'm just going to go in and out of each stitch all the way around. and then I will pull it tight to close that hole. You can secure this with a knot. And then I'm actually going to take this other yarn tail that we had from the beginning of our pom-pom, and I'm going to just feed that through the pom-pom so that my yarn tails are on the same side. Just like that. So now you should have your pom-pom with these two little tails hanging off of it. So now we are going to attach our pom-pom to the top of our hat. You can use any crochet hook for this. I just go on the inside of my hat and pull that yarn tail through the top. And then we're going to do the same thing with that second yarn tail that we had. Go back through another stitch in the top and pull that yarn tail through. Now I'm going to flip my hat inside out, and I'm just going to secure this with a few knots. Just like that. So again, you can weave all of these in. I usually just end up cutting the tails of my pom-pom and leaving that in the hat. But your Santa hat should look something like this when you're done. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. As always, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and feel free to share your hat if you make one on social media. I have all of my socials linked in the description down below. Happy holidays!